Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com. So in this week's ukulele lesson, we're going to be learning a Bossa Nova style rhythm. Now this lesson can be considered your first step into performing the Bossa Nova style. So with that said, the rhythm that we're going to be learning is very simplified. As you continue studying the Bossa Nova style, typically you're going to encounter rhythms that are very syncopated. So I just want to go ahead and point out that this lesson is intended for the beginner just getting started with the Bossa Nova style. So even though our rhythm is simplified, we're going to be spending a lot of time focusing on the expression behind our playing. So it's really important that we approach playing this piece to match the correct feel of the Bossa Nova style. So we'll focus a lot on our attack and the dynamics behind our playing. Now you probably also noticed that the chord progression is very jazz heavy. So these are probably all new chord shapes for you. So we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on getting the correct fingerings for the chords as well as working on the transition. So we want to be able to move from one chord to the next chord as seamlessly as possible. So that's everything that we're going to be covering in this lesson, which is part 1. If you guys want to learn the melody that's played over this rhythm, we're going to be covering that in part 2 of the video lesson at rockclass101.com. So you guys can click this link right here to check that out, or just go to the site and do a search for EP008. That's the lesson number for this lesson. There you'll also be able to get the complete tabs that you can print off and follow along with as a PDF format and access the on-screen tab viewer. This is a really cool feature where you can hit play, watch the tab scroll across in real time. You can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a really cool asset in learning this song that much easier. And last but not least, there's also 3 backing tracks that you guys can download. So there's a backing track at 100% speed, 75% speed, and 50% speed. So you'll be able to play along with the drums and the U-bass at home. So that's a lot of fun with the backing tracks. Alright, so let's kick into the lesson. So this song actually begins with us not playing. So we have a drum intro for 4 bars. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, an easier way to keep track of where you're at is to count it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So if you count it like that, you'll always know exactly where you are in the song. So that's how I always suggest to count things or breaks in music where you're not playing. So you want to keep that in mind for the count. So technically we're starting off on bar 5 in the song. Now our chord progression is 8 bars in length, and each bar has the same rhythm. So if you get the rhythm down once, you've got it throughout the entire piece of music. So the whole tune contains the same identical rhythm each bar. So that rhythm is this. It's 1, 2, 3, end. 1, 2, 3, end. So again, it's a very simple rhythm. So if we break down what we have, remember we're in 4/4. So we've got quarter, quarter, eighth notes. So our hits are on 1, 2, 3, and the end of 3. Now that end of 3, as you can see, I'll put it up here or there. It's going to last a dotted quarter. So it's going to sustain for the rest of the measure. So you have 1, 2, 3, end. 1, 2, 3, end. So if we count out 4, which we're not playing, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So you want to keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and put it into context. Let me go ahead and play it, and you can hear how it is, and then I'll count it out. Alright, so let's go ahead and count along and see how this falls out into the measure. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and. And if I count that 4 too to give us reference, remember we're not hitting on 4, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 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 4. So it's important to recognize that this rhythm is 1, 2, 3, end, 1, 2, 3, end. And remember that end of 3 lasts the remainder of the bar, so it lasts for a dotted quarter note. So 1, 2, 3, end, 1, 2, 3, end. right? So that covers the rest of the bar. But instead of only counting it as 1, 2, 3, and, you want to sing it out loud. So you want to match the feel of how it's supposed to be played, because if you can sing it, you can play it. So that feel sounds like this. Da da ch da 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 ch da 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 ch da 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 ch da. So that's very important that you work on both aspects, and don't be shy. You know, a lot of times in private lessons, my students are always like, I don't want to sing it, but it helps tremendously. I promise you, it helps tremendously with getting the correct feel down. So don't be afraid. Da da ch da 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 ch da 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 ch da 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 ch da. Okay, so very beneficial for you. Now, all 8 chords that we're going to be playing are played only on strings 3, 2, and 1. So we're not going to be playing string 4 at all for any of this rhythm section. So with that said, let's go ahead and make the first chord. First chord is a D minor 9. So we're going to take our index finger, put it on the 5th fret of string 3, our pinky on the 8th fret of string 2, and your ring finger on the 7th fret of string 1. Now our right hand attack for all of this rhythm is going to be using 3 fingers to pluck. So your index is plucking string 3, middle is plucking string 2, and your ring finger is plucking string 1. So go ahead and just get used to that. We're going to make the chord, and then we're going to pluck it with those 3 fingers. And our form for this chord, we've got that U-shaped gap. All of our fingers are on a fingertip, so it's important that we get the form down. So with that said, if you're new to understanding proper left-hand form, you're going to definitely want to check out this lesson that's going to cover playing chords like this. It's going to cover playing partial bar chords, which we're about to do for the second chord, and full bar chords. So it's going to teach you the proper left-hand form for where your hand needs to be behind the neck as well as on the fretboard. All right, so going into this chord, let's go ahead and pluck it again. So our first hit, we kind of want to do it as a bit of a staccato hit. So it's going to be, and the trick with this staccato is that when I pluck it, if you can watch real close up here, I'm going to lift my hands up, or my fingers up. And you can hear that mutes the chord, so it doesn't sustain. But when I lift up, it cuts the noise, right? So the trick with this is that we don't want to lift all the way up, or else the ukulele will ring out. So we only want to lift up enough to cut the noise. So you can see that I have the chord shape intact when I lift up. So try to match that feel. So if this is new to you, you can hit pause on the video and try to match that sound that I'm getting. So it's a pluck and then quickly lift up. Remember, lift up with all 3 fingers at the same time. Okay, so that's on the beat 1. So that's on the downbeat, right? So the first beat we have 1. Okay? Now on the second beat, we're going to pluck that chord again. This time we can hold it down. So we've got 1, 2. So you've got ch-da. So it's a staccato ch-da, and then holding it down. Okay, so real slow, we have staccato, holding it down. Again, our rhythm is just 1, 2. So if we try together, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember, staccato, sustained. So while you're sustaining this chord for the second beat, you're going to come down and do a slap for the third beat. So we just want to keep our hand in this claw shape right here, because when we come up from the slap, we're going to pluck again for the end of 3. So you're plucking that chord again. So if you come down with a claw shape for your slap, look at how my fingers are already in place to come up and pluck the chord again. So you don't want to come down like this or anywhere here or up here or tap with your thumb or anything else other than coming down with a claw shape and then coming up to pluck it again. So if I put that whole bar together, guys, I've got, right, and take a close look at how I come down and then I come up with the pluck again. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and. So again, I've got Okay, let's try that together real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So again, you can think of it in two ways. You can think of it as the rhythm, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and, or you can sing the feel of it, right? So it was da da ch da 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 ch da. So either one works, but I would actually work on both because the second one, the latter one, is probably something that a lot of us don't do but should do. So our next chord is a G13. So it's actually a really easy change. So going from the D minor 9, all we're going to do is we're going to lift up our pinky. We don't need it anymore. We're going to take this index finger and lay it flat on the 7th fret. So it's a partial bar chord. So now we've got, remember, we're not playing string 4, but we've got index on 5 on string 3, ring finger laying flat on 7, string 2, and string 1. Okay? So you want to just take a second right now and practice the first chord to the second. So D minor 9. And you want to switch and transition to the G13. So take a look at what happens. The index stays anchored, doesn't move at all. But the pinky lifts up and the ring comes down and lays flat on both strings. So you want to put that into a time frame to practice. Something like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this movement needs to happen simultaneously. So it's got to happen at the same time. So you don't want to go lift up, lay flat. You want to go together. So that's the key with all these chord changes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So go ahead and just hit pause and practice that transition. And we're going to kick off with G13. Remember, it's the same rhythm. So now we understand the rhythm and the feel. So we're just going to be applying that to a different chord. So let's give this rhythm a shot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so remember, staccato, sustain, slap, pluck. 1, 2, 3, and. Alright, so if we try bar 1 and 2 together, we've got both chords. So let's give it a shot slow. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So again, we've got pluck, pluck, slap, pluck. Pluck, pluck, slap, pluck. Okay? So that gives us our first 2 bars. Let's try it again, but real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Awesome. Now our next chord goes to C6-9. So this one again is actually a pretty easy transition. So all we're going to do is we're going to lift the ring finger up. We don't need it anymore. And we're going to drop this index finger down a half step. So it's on 5 right now. It's going to go to 4. So it's 4 on string 3. And then from here, we can actually take our middle finger and lay it flat this time. So it's doing the same thing our ring finger did on the second chord, but this time our middle finger is laying flat on the 5th fret, strings 1 and 2. So again, no string 4. We've got 4 on string 3, and the 5th fret flat with the middle finger, strings 2, string 1. Okay, so that one is really a bit more awkward, I think, because we're probably not used to using the middle finger. So remember that middle finger needs to come curved at the first knuckle and the second knuckle sticks out. So that's the trick with this chord. So notice that knuckles curved in, second knuckle pops out. So again, you want to practice the second chord to the third chord. So you want to work on that transition. So you've got, and you can put it again into the same context we talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? When you get a hang of that, you want to work on all 3 chords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Alright, so that's a great way to practice transitions. Now, we've got the same rhythm, so let's give it a shot, guys. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's go ahead and try all three chords. So we're starting at the top. So D minor nine. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our fourth chord for the song is an F major 9, and this transition going from the C6 9 to the F major 9 is going to be the hardest chord transition we've encountered thus far. And the reason it's tricky is because we've got a big jump. So let's form this chord and then we'll talk about the easiest way to transition from C6 9 to F major 9. So the F major 9 is formed with your index finger on 9 on string 3, pinky on 12 on string 2, and your middle finger goes on 10 on string 1. So again, I've got no string 4, 9, 12, 10. Okay, so you just want to get used to that shape. Remember, with this chord, we want to keep everything on a fingertip, so that's going to be the best way to play this chord shape. So when we're going from the third to the fourth chord, watch my index finger. It's literally just going to slide up from the 4th fret to the 9th fret. So that's all that's happening with my index finger. My hand moves up and my index finger literally just slides up to 9. Now the tricky thing is the other two fingers. So your middle finger needs to lift up and it's going to transition down to the 10th fret on string 1. But at the same time, your pinky needs to come down to 12 on string 2. So watch how those move together. So starting at the top, and we'll see how those move together. Boom. And again, so index just slides up, those two come down to their respective frets. So again. So that's the tricky thing, is coordinating all these fingers to do the correct movements simultaneously. So once you get a hang of that, you want to put it into a time frame context. Same thing we've done through the rest of the tune so far. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is probably the one that you're going to have to work on probably the most in this song. There's a couple other ones that are tricky, but I think this one's probably the hardest one. Okay, so let's go ahead and play this one with the rhythm. So remember guys, it's the same rhythm as before. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now that we've got the first 4 chords down, that's literally half of what we're playing for the rhythm. So we've learned half of it thus far. So let's give the first 4 bars a shot. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 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 4. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at our next chord, so the 5th chord in this tune. Now this shape is probably familiar to you, so if you've played a G minor before, it's going to be the same shape, but we're literally just moving it up, and in the context of this song, it's going to become a B minor 7 flat 5. So to form this chord, you're going to take the middle finger, put it on 9 on string 3, your ring finger goes on 10 on string 2, and your index finger goes on 8 on string 1. So the hard part is transitioning from the last chord, F major 9, to the B minor 7 flat 5, because you can see how much of a movement it has and how much of a finger frenzy it is. So let's cover this one again. So again, we're not playing string 4, we've got 9, 10, 8 for B minor 7 flat 5. So transitioning from the 4th chord to the 5th chord, what's going to happen is that all these fingers need to move in unison. So that's something we talked about in the last chord transition, but it's something that is very important for this transition. So when we transition from the 4th to the 5th, the middle finger and the index finger flip-flop. So watch that first. These fingers flip-flop. So middle comes up to 9, index drops down to 8, and then ring gets added to 10 on string 2. So again, you have a flip-flop, boom. So flip-flop and ring. But we want to add the ring and do the ring movement at the same time. So you see all 3 move at the same time, right? It's not ba, ba, ba. It's together, all 3 together. So real slow. from the 4th chord to the 5th chord. So again, you just want to put that into a time context. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And start as slow as you need. So start slow and work it up to speed. So once you've got this, we've got the same rhythm. So let's give it a shot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Awesome. All right, guys, let's look at our 6 chords. We're going to an E7 with a sharp 9. So this is a fun chord. It's actually a cool sounding chord, and it's actually the same shape as the 2nd chord in the tune. So this G13 that we learned, if we move that chord shape up a step and a half, we've got our 6th chord. So this is going to be the 8th fret of string 3 with your index finger, and your ring lays flat on 10 on strings 2 and 1. Okay, so the transition from the last chord to this new one is actually very simple, because all you have to do is lift the middle finger up. We don't need it anymore, and we're going to put our index finger to the 8th fret of string 3, and then just pivot our ring finger down so it lays flat. So check it out. So we've got lift the middle finger up, index comes up, ring lays down. But remember, all 3 of these movements need to happen simultaneously. So boom. So if you're new to the pivot, it's kind of weird. So pivot's like that, literally. So you're just going to pivot down to lay flat. So that's probably the trickiest thing with this chord switch. It's just kind of odd. Okay, so you can practice 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and let's put this one into the timing. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's practice the 5th to the 6th chord. So again, we're starting on B minor 7 flat 5, so that's 9, 10, 8. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we've only got 2 chords left, so let's go ahead and take a look at them. The first one is an A minor 11. So this is the 7th chord in the progression. So to form this chord, we're going to take our middle finger, put it on the 7th fret of string 3, ring finger is on 8 on string 2, and your index is 5 on string 1. So this time we've got a little awkward stretch, but it's not too bad. Now our transition going into this chord is a little tricky. So again, we had 8 laying flat on 10 for the previous chord, and when we transition down, we've got quite a bit of a movement. So the first thing that you want to work on is that ring finger. That ring finger is going to pivot up and it's going to slide down to 8. So that's the movement with the ring finger. Now these other 2 fingers are going to basically flip-flop. So watch what happens. The index comes down to the 5th fret and the middle comes up to the 7th fret. But again, the key is unison. So all these movements happen at the same time. So again, you just want to practice that in context like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so when you get a hang of that, let's try the rhythm. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and. Okay. Now our very last chord is an A7 flat 13, and this finishes up the rhythm. So let's take a look at how to form that. So this chord has us laying our index finger on 7 on string 3, so it's on a fingertip. Then we're going to put our ring finger on 9 on string 2, and your middle finger goes 8 on string 1. So that gives us our last chord. So actually not a hard shape at all. So the transition though, that's going to be, again, a bit tricky. So this time around, watch that ring finger first. That ring finger is going to scoot up a half step, and then the index comes down on the 7th fret and the middle goes to the 8th. So again, these flip-flop, but the opposite way this time. So sliding up with the ring, flip-flop. And again, you just want to practice that in time frame. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And work on the unison switch. So let's try that rhythm for the last chord. So A7 flat 13. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So that gives us the last half of the rhythm. So let's do this. Let's try bar 7 and 8, and then we'll try 5 through 8. So bar 7 and 8, we're starting on A minor 11. So that, again, that was 7, 8, 5. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Awesome. Let's try it one more time. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so now let's try 5 through 8. So that means we're starting on B minor 7 flat 5. So that was 9, 10, 8. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 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 4. All right, guys, so that gives us 5 through 8. So let's go ahead and try the entire thing. So we're going to go 1 through 8. So here we go, starting at the very beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 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 4. Awesome. Now, transitioning from the last chord back to the first chord is actually really tricky. So our last chord that we left off on, this A7 flat 13, going back to D minor 9, you want to take that index finger, move it down a whole step to 5, and then take that pinky, add it back to 8 on string 2, and your ring finger on 7 on string 1. So the last chord change, tricky, so that's one that you want to practice. So oftentimes, I notice too that a lot of people work on the progression 1 through 8, but they always tend to forget that, well, this has to loop. So they never practice the 8th bar back to the 1st bar. So always remember that whenever you're learning songs that have repetition, you want to practice how it repeats or starts again. So that last transition. Okay? So again, index drops down, and then pinky comes down and ring comes down. So middle lifts up, we don't use it. Okay, so you just want to work on that transition. Now one last thing that I want to talk about with the dynamic, you can add a little vibrato to the last hit, so the last chord hit for every measure. It sounds a little bit like this. So we didn't talk too much about it because the vibrato is really a tricky thing to do for a 3-fingered chord. And we've got so much going on top of it, but it's a really good dynamic to add, and it gives it that extra bit of flavoring that sounds really, really cool. So if you want to add that dynamic, just go ahead and form the first chord. And I want you to shake it, and you're going to shake it very subtly. This shake, we can't do like a normal vibrato, which is up and down like that, which is very subtle, like a normal vibrato attack. This one has to be a bit of sideways attack. But you can hear it's got the little character of the vibrato in it, instead of straight with a little added to it. So that's something that you can work on. You just got to keep the pressure down and then apply the little vibrato to it. Okay, so you can see how much movement I've got. I've got quite a bit of movement. Subtle, but more than we typically would have. But it gives it a really, really cool sound. So if I play it one time, I will just play the first half without it, and then we'll play it again with it, and you can hear the difference. Okay, and if I play with it. So it just gives it an extra bit of color. So something that you can add in or leave out, up to you, whatever you prefer. Alright guys, so that's everything for this lesson. So I hope you enjoyed your first step into learning a bossa nova style playing. And it was quite a bit of challenge too with all these jazzy chords. So probably all new chord shapes, and they're a lot of fun. They're really great for advancing your chord knowledge on the neck and playing throughout the neck too, breaking away from playing up top only. So a lot of fun, very cool sounding chords, and especially playing with the backing track, this lesson is going to be great for developing your timing and your rhythm playing. So again guys, if you want to learn the second half of this tune, which is the melody that's played over the rhythm, we're going to be covering that in the part 2 lesson at rockclass101.com. So you can click this link, or you can just go to the site and do a search for EP008. That was the lesson number for this lesson. Remember, there you'll also be able to print the complete tabs out and follow along as a PDF format, and access the on-screen tab viewer, and download the backing track so you can play along with the U-bass and the drums. So a lot of fun. So it's like rocking out at home. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you in the part 2 lesson. Thanks.